Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Playoff Poncho, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please go to the link in the description. There you'll find both right and left-handed video tutorials, a link to the written pattern, and links to all the supplies and other tutorials you may need to make this easy poncho garment. For this pattern, I used Red Heart Heatwave, which is a very unique yarn in that under UV light, it can generate heat up to 12 degrees warmer, actually keep you up to 12 degrees Fahrenheit warmer when you're wearing it under UV light. That works for cloudy days and light days, but it doesn't work so well at night, and as soon as you come inside, it starts cooling right back down. You'll also need a USK 6.5 millimeter hook. This one happens to be by Furls. You'll also need stitch markers, a yarn needle, and of course scissors, the standard crochet supplies. Let's go ahead and get started with this easy poncho pattern. First, we'll take a quick look at the written pattern. Here you can see the pattern comes in 9 different sizes, all the way from extra small through 5X. And anytime there's a difference in the pattern, this is how it will be formatted. So I do suggest that when you decide which size you want to make, you find that number wherever it is in the pattern and circle it or highlight it as you go so you always know which number you're following. The pattern does feature 23 inches of ease, which means it's 23 inches bigger around than the standard size and falls approximately 4.5 inches below the waist. All of these measurements are based on the Craft Yarn Council sizing standards, and on the blog post, not on paper, but on the blog post, this is a clickable link, so you can go there and check out your measurements and help you decide which size you want to make. I also do want to point out there's no stitch multiple for this pattern. So if you are making it and you get 10 rows in and you realize, oh no, I've got 2 extra stitches or 2 fewer, as long as you like the width, keep going. You don't have to pull back. It won't make a big difference, just a little bit difference there in the width, but in the end, that's up to you. The row multiple, however, is 2, so any even number of rows will also work for you. So with this information, you can make a totally custom size if you'd like. I also want to point out that in the written pattern, there is a schematic, and this has the measurements taken before you've added the edging and neck, but it shows you how much approximately you're getting for each size for these seams. You can see these green lines here. This is where we're going to seam our 2 rectangles together. We're going to make 2 rectangles just like this, seam them at the side here, at the top, leave all this open. The edging will be worked all the way around here, back and forth, or not back and forth, but rather all the way around on both pieces. And then this section here with the dashed lines, this is the portion that stays open for our little mock turtleneck to be added later. I also want to point out that I use some of my fancier stitches. Let me get these pages switched here. For instance, I like to use the chainless starting double crochet with this. And if you prefer to avoid that, as well as the foundation double crochet that I like to use to start the first row, and the standing double crochet that I like to use when I'm beginning a new row with the same color. All of these are things that I think elevate the pattern a little bit, but if you don't like them and you don't like using them or you're not familiar with them, I do have ideas in the notes for ways to avoid them and use more standard crochet stitches. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get started with the stitches themselves. Now, as I said, we're going to make 2 rectangles that will then get seamed together. So this is the basic instructions for each of those rectangles. Now, the row 1 instructions are going to give you different numbers depending on what size you're making, anywhere from 80 to 128 stitches. So again, check the written pattern for your size. For our little demo today, I'm just going to go ahead and start with a series of 10 stitches. Since it's basically a 2-row repeat, doesn't really matter what size I make to demo, they're all going to look the same, just the numbers will be different. The first row begins with a row of foundation double crochet. So to make foundation double crochet, I do have a separate tutorial, but I'll go ahead and make these 10 with you here. I've got a slip knot and then I've chained 2. I'm going to yarn over and go into that first chain that I made through the back loop. Then I'm going to pull up a loop here, yarn over and pull up a loop like so. Now I've got 3 loops left on the hook right here. And that first loop I pulled through right there, that one at the bottom, that's going to act as the chain at the bottom of our first double crochet. So I'll yarn over and pull up a loop. That starts our double crochet. So then I yarn over and pull through 2 and yarn over and pull through 2. So that's 1 foundation double crochet. From there, I yarn over, I go under those 2 loops at the bottom that represent sort of the bottom of our chain there. From the first stitch, pull up a loop, to make the chain for our second stitch, yarn over, pull through there to begin our double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 2, and the other 8 will be just like that. So again, if you need a closer look at the foundation double crochet, I do have a separate tutorial for it linked at the link in the description and on the Moogly YouTube channel and on mooglyblog.com. So go ahead and make however many foundation double crochets you need for your size, and I will see you at the end of row 1. All right, so at the end of row 1, you should have however many foundation double crochets as needed for your size. To begin row 2, we're simply going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn, and then half double crochet in each stitch across. One note, row 1 and row 3 and all the odd numbered rows are the right side rows for this pattern, and the even numbered rows are the wrong side rows. So when you assemble it, you'll want to make sure that that's how you do it, that you keep the wrong side rows together and the right sides out. As you can see, half double crochet goes pretty quickly. Of course, if you're making a full-size poncho, you'll have a lot more of them to make than I do, but I'm almost at the end of my 10 here, so I'll just go ahead and finish that up. So these first 2 rows are sort of the setup row, so to speak, or setup rows, I should say. After that, it's just a 2-row repeat. So rows 3 and 4 are going to be our repeat. So let's go ahead and begin row 3. All right, to begin row 3, I like to use the chainless starting double crochet. As I mentioned, that's one of my, I guess you could call them fancier stitches. If you prefer, you can chain 2 and just do a double crochet, or you could do whatever, really, chain 3, whatever double crochet substitute you prefer. This is the one I like best. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a loop. And I do want to point out too, before I begin this, I have a separate tutorial for it that shows it in pretty good detail if you want to check that out as well. But I'm just going to do it quickly here. I'm going to pull up my loop, put my finger down on top of that loop, wrap the loop around my hook, go into that first stitch, yarn over, pull a loop through, yarn over, pull through that first loop and behind the one wrapped around my hook. Still got a hold of the one at the top there with my finger. Then yarn over, and finally I'll let go of that and pull through those 2 loops there to finish the stitch. One thing I also like to do is go ahead and put a stitch marker right in the top of that stitch after I make it, so that those top 2 loops are just super easy to find when I come back from the other direction. So again, go ahead and start row 3 with whatever double crochet substitute or double crochet stitch you like to do to begin your rows. After that, we are going to back loop only double crochet in each stitch across until just 1 stitch remains. So to back loop double crochet, we'll yarn over, and then we want to sort of turn our work here so we can see that top V at the top of each stitch. We're going to go under just the one that's furthest away from you as the crocheter. The back loop is always relative to the crocheter, so it's always the one furthest away from you out of those top 2 loops of the V of the stitch. So we're going to basically put our hook right in the middle of the stitch there so we can go under that back loop. Then we can yarn over and pull up our loop and finish our double crochet just as usual, like so. So that leaves that front loop unworked, which is going to give us a really nice textural element for our poncho. So after that, like I say, we just back loop double crochet in each stitch until just 1 remains. So we yarn over and go under the back loop of the next stitch and keep working all the way across for row 3 until just 1 stitch of row 3 is left. All right, so when you've got just 1 stitch left on row 3, all we're going to do is double crochet in that last stitch, but this time we'll go under both of those loops. So just get under both those loops like so, and go ahead and make a double crochet. There we go. And that'll give us a little bit sturdier edge to work our edging row into when we work our border for our poncho, while still giving us this really great textural line across. To begin row 4, we're simply going to repeat row 2. Basically, chain 1 and half double crochet in each stitch across. Now, in the written pattern, at this point, you're actually going to change colors. So on that last stitch, you would finish off the stitch by yarning over and pulling through with your new color, and then basically just doing the same 2-row repeat with the new color until the pattern tells you to change colors again. So it's really very simple, and I do have a separate tutorial on how to change colors for striped patterns if you need to check that out as well. Otherwise, the row that we just made previous to this one, the double crochet one that's mostly worked in the back loop only, followed by a row of half double crochet that we just made just now, that is your 2-row repeat, and that will take you all the way through the poncho until you've got your 2 rectangles made. The number of repeats, the number of rows that you work, will depend on your size, anywhere from 42 to 46 rows. So again, check the written pattern for your size. As soon as you've got both of your rectangles made, and again, if you want to change up the stripe pattern in yours or not put stripes in it, not change colors, or change colors a dozen times, it's up to you. I've included some sporty stripes in mine, but you can do the color changes or no color changes, whatever you like. So anyway, after you've gotten those 2 rectangles made, we'll go ahead and cut the yarn and finish them off and then seam them together. Okay, so here I have 2 small swatches that are going to represent the 2 halves of our finished poncho. Now here, if you look closely, you can see that little ridge there. That means that's the right side. If I turn over here where it's smooth and there's not that ridge, this is going to be the wrong side. So what we want to do is take the wrong sides and put them together so that the right sides are out. So then we take our 2 rectangles and we're going to use our stitch markers to match up the stitches. And in the written instructions, there are specific stitch counts or stitch numbers to seam together. So you can go by the measurements in the schematic, or you can look at the written instructions for seaming the shoulders, and it will tell you exactly how many stitches on each side to seam together for the shoulders. Just remember, you're going to leave a center section open for the neckline. So I will go ahead and start putting some stitch markers here in these stitches to match them up. And then as soon as I've got a few matches made here, we will go ahead and demo that seaming. Okay, obviously on your full-size poncho, you're going to have a lot more stitches to seam together than just the 3 I've marked out at each end here. But I wanted to leave enough to demo the neckline on, although again, it is very simple. So before we do that though, let's go ahead and talk about how we do seam it together. For this pattern, you could use either the whip stitch or the mattress stitch, although I prefer to use the mattress stitch to seam it. So again, there is a separate tutorial for that on the channel, but basically you can just come from behind on one side. And again, this is a length of yarn that I've cut off. Don't try and work off the skein for sewing. That makes it very difficult. So we're just going to pull that through, leave a few inches though, so you don't accidentally pull it all the way through. And then when you come over to the matching stitch on the other side, you can just come from behind with your needle again. Go ahead and get all these little ends out of the way here. I'm going to go ahead and remove that stitch marker. And then you come to the next stitch on the first side from behind again. And then the next stitch on the second side. Sorry, I have to hold my hand kind of funny there so I don't end up blocking it on camera. Makes it a little trickier. There we go. Now again, I do have a full tutorial for the mattress stitch seaming on the Moogly YouTube channel, and that one would be really helpful to watch as well because I use a different colored yarn, so it's a little bit easier to see for that one. Of course, when you're making the actual project, you would want to make sure, oops, and I had these matched up the wrong way, it looks like. There we go. So you'll want to make sure when you make the actual project, though, of course, you use matching yarn. Unless you're doing a colorful element of your own and you want to make it a little different. Go colorful with it. All right, there we go. So anyway, the mattress stitch seaming, whip stitch seaming, as long as you're using the same color for this pattern, probably won't make too much of a difference, but just seam together the number of stitches indicated in the pattern for each shoulder, and then we can go ahead and come back here and make the neck together. All right, so after you've seamed your shoulders, you should have a center opening here left for the neck. Again, you want to make sure that the right sides are facing out or up, I guess, towards you as the crocheter, and that the wrong side is down or away from you. What we're going to do is join our color A again, our main color, to any stitch of the neck opening with a back loop only standing double crochet. This is another one of those stitches where if you prefer not to use it, you can join with a slip stitch and just chain 3. But again, you'll want to make sure to join in that back loop only. So I like to use any one of the center ones here, sort of in the middle, and then I'll just call that the back of my poncho. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. Just, if you happen to like one side for some reason better than the other, make that one the front and begin here on the back. So to make the standing double crochet, again, there is a separate tutorial for it, but to do it real quick here, I'm just going to hold on to my tail end of yarn, yarn over twice on my hook, pick up my work here and sort of just randomly pick one of these center stitches here. In this case, I will go under the back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then I can yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now I don't want to let go of this tail end just yet until I've finished my next stitch, as that sort of locks it down here. You can see otherwise it could come out of the stitch itself. So I'm just going to yarn over and go ahead and make a back loop double crochet in the next stitch. After I've done that, there we go, then I can go ahead and let go of that tail end. And here I like to take another stitch marker, and if I pull on that loop just a little bit there, it's real easy to get the stitch marker, under that loop, and then take my tail end and put it in the stitch marker as well. And then you can see right there, that will be the top 2 loops at the top of that very first stitch I made. So from there, I can continue on around, and we're simply going to back loop double crochet in each remaining stitch around. Now we're going to do that all the way around the neck opening here until we come back to the other side, and then we would slip stitch to that first double crochet we made, in this case the standing double crochet. Now I do want to point out that where you've seamed the shoulders, sometimes you can get a little bit of gapping there. So go ahead and work right up until you get to right about where you've got your shoulder seam, and then I'll show you a little trick I like to use to make that just a little bit smoother. All right, now generally speaking, when you're working your way around, see that here I have the last stitch before the ones I've sewn together for my shoulder seam, and you might think go ahead and work your double crochet there, and then just jump straight over to the next unworked stitch here for the neck on the front. But let me show you what happens, at least what happens to me when I do that. You get this really awful gap right there. Even though these 2 stitches are sewn together, it's not like they're glued right up to the edge or sewn with thread. There's some space there. So the way I like to solve that, let me go ahead and pull those last 2 stitches out. Put that back on my hook there. What I'm going to do instead is when I get to this last stitch of the official neckline, I'm going to go ahead and start my double crochet, and then I am going to basically make a double crochet 2 together over that stitch and the first stitch that has actually been sewn. So even though it's been sewn, I hope you can see that right there, it's got a thread going through it to sew my shoulder seam. A little bit of a tongue twister there. I'm going to go ahead and try and wiggle my hook in there as well. Pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then go ahead and finish the decrease. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Find the other one that was sewn to right there. Go under the back loop again, just the back loop because that's the whole round. Start a double crochet, and then go into the first real one there, so to speak, the first real unworked one for the neck. Make another double crochet 2 together there. And as you can see, that really does fill in that gap quite a bit better. And if you find that it's still gapping a little bit, you can take a little bit of your yarn and sew that together some more at the base if you like. But that really does help fill in the neck gap there on the side. Other than that, we're simply going to back loop double crochet all the way around, like I said, until we get to the other, or the very first one we made. You can repeat that definitely if you use the double crochet 2 together trick on the one side of the neckline, go ahead and do it on the other. And I will see you when we have finished round 1 of our neck. Okay, so as you finish your round 1 of your neck here, you're going to go ahead and, like I say, slip stitch to the top of that first double crochet you made, however you made it. Then you can go ahead and take that stitch marker out. And then for rounds 2 and 3, which are going to be exactly the same, I'm simply going to back loop only double crochet in each stitch around. So to make that first one, again, you can do whatever double crochet substitute you like, but I'm going to go ahead and pull up a loop and make a chainless starting double crochet in the back loop only. Let me move that back strand out of the way here so you can see it clearly. There we are. I'll pull up my loop, hold it down with my finger, wrap it around my hook, then I'm just going to go right under that back loop of the stitch we just joined to. And this one is a little fiddly and it might be pulling up. Remember, it was that standing one, but we've got that tail we can use to sort of tighten it up here when we're done. So I'm just going to stabilize it here a little bit with my other hand, my non-hook hand, and finish up that stitch. And then just as before, I'm going to go ahead and put a stitch marker under those top 2 loops so that they're a little bit easier to find as I come back around. There we go. And then I can simply back loop only, double crochet in each stitch around, just as I did before. This time we don't have to do any sort of decreases at the sides of the neckline. That's all taken care of. Like I say, before you weave in that end, make sure you give it a little tug and tighten that back up if it's gotten pulled and loose. But otherwise, just work back loop only double crochets around for 2 more rounds. After you've finished the first 3 rounds of the neckline, round 4 is going to be just the same, except when you get to the end of it, we're going to join to the back loop only. So rather than joining under those top 2 loops like you normally would, we're just going to go ahead. I pulled my work out here a couple times on this one already, but we're going to go ahead and get under that back loop there and yarn over and pull through. There we are. So we've joined to the back loop only. And that sets us up to begin round 5. To make round 5, we're going to skip the first stitch. That's the one we joined to by slip stitching in the back loop only. And the reason is we're going to back loop only slip stitch in each remaining stitch around. So it can be really helpful here so you don't get lost and confused. Go ahead and put a stitch marker right in that slip stitch that you joined with, because that's actually going to count as the first stitch of this last round 5. And then you can just back loop only slip stitch in each stitch around. Go under that back loop just as before, pull up your loop, and then pull it on through for a slip stitch. And that just gives us a really nice finished edge for our neck. And after that, we'll be ready to begin the edging. All right, so now our tiny little poncho has a neck, and it is time to add our final edging. Again, I like to start somewhere on the back panel, which you can tell now because of where you began your neckline. So whether you like to begin on the side or the bottom is totally up to you, but we're going to single crochet evenly all the way around the body opening. So that will give us 4 corners that we need to address, 2 on the back and 2 on the front. And in each of these corners, we're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that here. And then when we get all the way around, we'll just join with a slip stitch, and then we'll be ready for round 2 of the edging. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my yarn here. There we are. And then you can join with a single crochet or join with a slip stitch, however you like to do it. I like to join with a single crochet by just flipping my yarn over like so, inserting my hook. Then I will go ahead and go under that foundation chain right there, easy peasy. And then I can just pull up my loop, yarn over, pull through 2 there, and I've got my first single crochet. I can weave that end in when I get, of course, to the end of my project. Then I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch across here until I get to this corner. So here I am at the corner. I know this is the little chain 2 at the beginning of that foundation double crochet, so it doesn't really count as a stitch. So I'm going to work a single crochet there, and then I will chain 2, 1, 2, and then I will single crochet sort of in the same space, but now I'm going to call it the side of that stitch. So you can see now I've turned and I'm ready to single crochet evenly all the way around. Now, if you need more instruction on how to work into the edge, again, I do have a separate tutorial linked for that at the link in the description, also on the Moogly blog YouTube channel. Round 2 of the edging is exactly the same thing as that last round we did for our neckline, where we're going to join, when we get to the end of this first round, we'll join in that back loop only and then slip stitch in the back loop all the way around. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. Just whenever you get to those chain 2 corners, work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet right in the chain 2. And other than that, you've got your playoff poncho made. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the finished poncho. Okay, here you can see the color changes I did, but you can also see it's the exact same row repeat, those same 2 rows over and over and over again. So you can make your color changes if you want to make them differently, however you like. And here also you can see that edging I've worked. Single crochet around for the first round, and then the back loop only slip stitch for the second round. Now, if I pull it down here, let's see, it's straightened out a little bit here. Here you can see that sort of mock turtleneck neckline that we've made together. Of course, a little bit bigger here on the finished poncho. This one happens to be a size large. And if I pull over here to the side where that seam was, you can see right there are those 2 double crochet 2 togethers that I've really tightened up there on that neckline and gotten rid of that gap. I didn't even have to go back and sew it with any yarn. This was just how it happened to turn out after those double crochet 2 togethers. So just make sure you've got the right sides out. You want those lines on the outside, smooth on the inside, and that is how you make the playoff poncho. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial for the playoff poncho. I hope you'll give this pattern a try, as well as Red Heart Heat Wave. You can go to the link in the description. Again, you'll get the link to the written pattern there with all 9 sizes, extra small through 5X, as well as the left-handed or right-handed video tutorial if you've happened to land on the wrong one, and links to all the other tutorials I've mentioned, and all the supplies you need to make your own poncho. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And please don't forget to like and subscribe and follow the Moogly YouTube channel. It really helps us out, and we want to make sure you see all the great new crochet and yarny things we have to share. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day, everybody.